Our Speakers Bureau to order. A few months ago, Speakers Bureau co-chair, distinguished Toastmaster Tom Jameson, asked me to serve as Speakers Bureau chair for the August program, which is tonight. This is my third year serving as District 12's Club Quality or DCP chair, which is inspiration for tonight's program, building championship clubs. And we're going to hear from we have a wonderful keynote speaker, world champion of public speaking, Lance Miller. We're going to hear from our district director on why it's important to be President's Distinguished. And we have presidents or past presidents of 5 clubs that have been President's Distinguished at least the past 12 years or more. So it's going to be a full program tonight. And I get the honor of introducing our keynote speaker tonight. Lance Miller is an award-winning speaker and trainer. He has delivered over 5,000 speeches in over 60 countries on public speaking, leadership, and succeeding against adversity. Lance is Toastmasters 2005 World Champion of Public Speaking. I competed against Lance at the semifinals of the World Championship of Public Speaking in 2003. I'm sure he remembers it well. I remember the elation of completing my speech and sitting down. 2 speeches later, I heard ka-ching, and my heart went kerplunk. That was my last international speech, by the way. Made it to international, or made it to the district finals. I still thought, well, I could still come in second. Well, Lance went over 2 seconds that day. 2 years later, I was at the International Convention in Toronto, Canada, and I heard ka-ching again. And the rest, as they say, is history. He has held numerous officer positions at the club and district level. He was instrumental in building his home club, Renaissance Speakers, to 95 members and the number 4 Toastmasters club in the world. Renaissance Speakers has continued to be one of the top 50 clubs in Toastmasters for the past 20 years. Lance worked with over 80 districts, helping Toastmasters win with Toastmasters. He is the founder and host of the World Champion Speaker Online Summit, where he shares the path and experience from 30 world champions of public speaking. Lance is a partner in Miller, Knutson, and DeRay LLC, specializing in corporate productivity and growth. His business experience spans serving as an executive with the 1984 Los Angeles Olympic Organizing Committee, Nestle, and Anheuser-Busch. He has developed sales and marketing programs across 8 different industries and completing 5 new business startups. Please help me welcome our guest speaker, keynote speaker tonight, 2005 World Champion of Public Speaking, Lance Miller.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you for everybody asking me to come see you this evening. As if you wonder what's going on, I had a business meeting I had to run up to Sacramento for the last couple of days, and I'm now zipping down the 5 freeway at 85 miles an hour. Fortunately, I'm not the one driving right now. But I just turned the driving over to my business partner, so we're making it go right today. That's sort of part of the Toastmasters. To make things go right and figure them out for ourselves. And I want to share with you some of the experiences I had in really figuring out how to make our club work. And part of it was, and I have to say, probably one of the biggest things I got out of my Toastmasters experience was the confidence that I could really think for myself, and I could figure out how to make things work on my own without needing somebody else to say, this is what you do, or having a manual I got to look it up in. I could actually figure it out for myself and what was going to work. One of the things I see a lot of people in Toastmasters do, and my club had gotten caught up in this a little bit, was we followed all the rules that we learned in our training, and we followed the rules that Toastmasters International told us what to do, but our clubs didn't grow. And that sort of sets up what my viewpoint of Toastmasters International is, and that is it's a little bit like Home Depot. And Home Depot, you can go get all the material and all the supplies and all the tools to build your house, but they're not going to come build your house for you. You got to swing the hammer. You got to figure out what type of house you want to build, but you can get all the supplies at Home Depot to build it. And you'd think somebody was pretty stupid if you came driving by their house and they had a bunch of lumber sitting in the front yard, and you go, Joe, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm waiting for Home Depot to come build my garage. You go, they don't do that. But not that anybody on this call is doing it, but I've witnessed this in Toastmasters around the world, that a lot of people will start a Toastmasters club and they feel they're doing everything right in the club. They're doing everything they're instructed to do, but the club isn't growing. And you sort of scratch your head and go, well, I don't know, we're doing everything we were told to do. And this is where it's moving it over to really figuring out for yourself things that just say very fundamentally turned my club around. We had, when I joined the club, it was in like October of 1992. We had about 35 members in the club, which was a good, strong club. But by August, we only had about 12 coming to the meeting. And, you know, there were 5 of us, I think, showed up for a meeting one morning, and we didn't have a meeting. We had coffee. And we're trying to figure out if we're going to keep the club or we're going to close it or what we're going to do. And one of the guys at the, if we're going to do this, let's win with Toastmasters, or let's go do something else and win with it. And I've sort of paraphrased this to that. I don't clubs and Toastmasters are sort of like that. They just never seem to get off the ground, but they don't die. You know, and I'm sure the districts are watch every year that they do, like they get a breath and they pay their dues, and they're going, they've got 10, 12 people in them or 8 people, and they never seem to like get moving, but they just hang on. And that's one of the most difficult clubs I've ever seen to run, is a club of only 8 or 10 people, because there's not enough people to really have a dynamic experience. And you know, like I said, one of the other people said in the meeting said, you know, Toastmasters, this is back in the 90s, we had a different distinguished club program, and they said, you know, they rank all the clubs, you know, let's be a top 10 club in the world. And we all thought that would really be winning with Toastmasters. Now, the simplicity of what happened with that was that we decided, there's the simplicity, we decided to build the club. And we decided to go someplace, which is really the essence of leadership. I read a great book on leadership. If you haven't read it, I recommend it. And it's called The Dictionary. And you look up the word lead, and you go down to the derivation of where the word lead comes from. Because, you know, there was a point in human history that the word lead did not exist. You know, we used to sit around a campfire and grunt at each other, and somebody says, well, when you do that grunt, what do you mean? And the word lead actually means to go. It means to go someplace. And so if you're going to lead somebody, it means you're going somewhere. And in our club, we had never decided to go anywhere. So we sort of met, and it was a little bit like being on a treadmill. We just sort of go to the meetings, and we weren't going any direction. And when we decided to build the club, and quite honestly, the 35 people didn't decide. The 5 of us at coffee that day decided to build a club. We had a direction and a destination that we wanted to go to. And Toastmasters talks a lot about this, like in their Distinguished Club program, and the whole idea of set out your goals for the year and things like that. But to me, that's a little bit esoteric on the way that goes about. First of all, I got to tell you, I'm not really politically correct, and I don't pull my punches on this thing. I think in order to get things done, we have to be able to sort of look them in the eye and talk about the problems that we have. And I give you an example. It's about, 8 years ago, I went in the hospital with severe right side pain, and they took my appendix out. And that wasn't the problem. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a little attached to my organs. You know, I don't like people yanking them out of my body because they think that's the problem. And it was a wrong diagnosis, and it didn't solve the problem. I still had severe right side pain. Now I had tapped out my medical deductible, and I wound up in Vancouver in extreme pain and couldn't get on the airplane and had to lay on the floor of the airport for about 8 hours until I was able to get on the airplane and make it home. And there's a lot of times, you know, in order to solve things, we have to get the right problem with it on that. So like I said, one of the things that I see that in the Toastmasters environment is where are we really going? And it's like, well, you need to get 4 new members, you need to get 8 new members this year, and you need to get to just, you know, a couple people on the Distinguished Club program. But I think we're missing the element of what's really happening. Are we creating a really dynamic communication and leadership environment for someone to come into that can change their life? And that's really what we have in Toastmasters. And I think, and it benefited us tremendously. That's why we're still here. And I like to say Toastmasters is a little bit like church from the standpoint that we revive the dead. And what I mean by that, you see these people coming to Toastmasters and they're this little huddled shell of a mass, and they can't hardly talk, and you know they're an introverted individual. And 6 months later, you can't shut them up. They are more alive than you've ever seen. And we see people come to life in Toastmasters all the time. And really what we're doing, we're giving people a safe place to get their feet on the ground, to get to really learn how to communicate, how to exist, learn how to live, and it's okay to talk. And if we look at what happens throughout the course of existence, our parents sort of tell us to be quiet and be still. And we go to school, we're not really encouraged to stand up and give an original thought. As a matter of fact, we're taught how to sit there and study what other people things should be different. So we're not encouraged to speak. And then everybody's had experiences where they said something stupid and everybody got laughed at, or they said something that was right, but everybody told them it was wrong. And so what happens is through this whole experience, it becomes unsafe to communicate. And Toastmasters is this environment where we can learn that it's okay, that we actually do have good ideas, we do have good thoughts, and we can get them out. And so we're really reviving people and creating an environment that we're excited to see new people come into and do the program and get what I call the twinkle in the eye and the spring in the step, and watch their self-esteem expand and their confidence expand and their competence be developed so that they can actually go out and live the life and achieve the things they want. It's not just about getting a couple DCP points. Now, I'm not a big fan of this current Distinguished Club program because it really, quite honestly, it rewards mediocrity in the club level. And I think it was brought about because Toastmasters has always struggled trying to get clubs above 20 members. And I think there was a mentality, I haven't confirmed this anywhere, but when I looked at what they were trying to do, because I know how the old program worked, and I really liked it, but it was sort of hard for a lot of people to understand how it worked, but that's because we didn't teach it well. But they put this new one in, and they rewarded the club for getting 8 new members, and now it's like, I think, 4 level 1s and a couple level 2s and 1 or 2 level 4 and 5s, and we don't even reward people for really getting all the members in the club up to level 5. Getting some officers trained to produce data and time, it's really what we got to do to maintain a club. It doesn't really reward excellence in a club, but that being said, I want to say that there's no reason every club in Toastmasters is not President's Distinguished, because it is what you really need to do to keep your club at a base level. So what was it that really turned our club around? Well, there was a spirit of core that we had, that we wanted to build something great. We wanted to be a good Toastmasters club. And we really wanted, we were monitoring our growth in all the other clubs. When we started, we were like 7,000th in the world. And the first year, we just filled the forms out and sent our documents in, and we went up to like 114. And then they're like, the next year we were 56, and the next year we were 28, and the next year we were 14, and we were so close. And the final year we were number 4. But what we did, we really focused on the member achievement, and that DCP program also rewarded that. But there were a couple real big turning points in the club, and I'll share those with you. One was, we asked the members, when we started building, we asked the members why they liked coming to the club, because we had 12 people coming and we had, 17 or something that weren't. 23 that weren't, okay? And so people had stopped coming to the club. So the 5 of us split up and we called everybody and we said, what do you like? Why did you like coming to the club? Because they weren't coming to the club anymore. And the number 1 reason they said they liked coming to the club was they liked having fun. And the number 2 reason was they liked seeing their friends. And the number 3 reason was the fact they wanted to get the improvement from Toastmasters. And we realized right then why. I got a fly flying around the car here. Sorry about that. You know, I didn't invite them to the seminar tonight. Anyway, we realized immediately why our club was failing. We stopped being a fun, friendly environment. We had 2 presidents in a row who were sort of draconian. They were very negative. They were very authoritative. One was very authoritative, and one was very, I would say, like non-assertive. He was this very quiet individual. There was no energy that came out of him, but it wasn't fun. And what we learned is when the meetings aren't fun, people stop coming. Now, I don't mean funny. Fun was productive. Fun was good feedback. Fun was running on time. Fun was, I said, the time was spent really well. And so we have a policy in our club that we have to maintain a fun, friendly environment. And the meeting, if it goes off the rails, which they do, at the end of the meeting, we always put it back on the rails so it's a fun, friendly environment. We have upsets between people. We pull them off to the side, we handle them, and we make sure we return it to a fun, friendly environment. So that's one of the things that's a fun environment. One of the other things that was going on was that our meetings were starting late and ending late. And this may seem like a minor thing, but we have a 3-hour meeting. It's a weekend meeting, and it goes from 9 to 12, 9 in the morning to noon. And we were starting as much as 20 minutes late. And when we were starting late, it was sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because members would come late because they knew it was going to start late. And when I became president, I said, okay, we're going to start the meeting at 9 o'clock, so please be here at 5 to 9, and we're going to change it. It only took 3 months for the members to start coming to the meeting on time. But I started that meeting at 9 o'clock, and sometimes there were only 3 people sitting in the audience, but we started the meeting on time and we got it running on time. So one of the real critical have a very successful start on time or run time, which means all your segments are timely, and ending the meeting on time, because we have a contract with the people who come to us that they agree to give us this time. They don't agree to give us 20 minutes after or show up and not do anything for 20 minutes. So we really put that in, that we start on time and we end on time, and we in between we run on time. And whenever our meeting starts to run off, and this has happened over the years, we see our membership drop. Okay, so that was one of the fundamentals we put in. Now the thing that really turned it around, to be a time club, so we went to every member under the old legacy program now, but we asked the points, and we're taking 3 years to do their CC, which meant they were speaking about every 4 months or something. And so what we wanted them to speak was every 4 or 5 weeks. And actually what happened was, when we put that in and we started really pushing people in a nice way to get through their manual faster, because they were speaking more frequently, they
Richard, it looks like we may have lost Lance.
Can you hear me now? Can you
Yes,
hear me?
we can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, great. I think I want people doing the program. And when they did the program, their life changed. And when their life changed, they started to love doing Toastmasters because they became more competent, they became more confident. They got the twinkle in the, and they were excited about the program because they were actually doing the program. And one of the, I sort of look at Toastmasters like going to the gym. And it's like, if you go to the gym and you work out one day and you get up the next day and you go, I'm so sore, I'm not going to go back to the gym for 6 months. That's like giving your icebreaker and go, I'm so nervous, I'm not going to speak for 6 months. What happens is the gain you got that one day from exercising. So the same thing when you get up to speak, you lose all the gain you got from that one time in speaking. But when you start speaking frequently, you start keeping the gain and your competency starts going up. So getting people to go through the program and doing 10 speeches a year is one of the, and I turn around and I looked at what happened in the club and I've watched the clubs, and anybody knows me knows I've been, as Richard was introducing, I've worked with over 80 districts since I won the world championship to really build better clubs than Toastmasters, because I think, you know, Toastmasters lives and dies at the club level, and we can change so many people's lives with it. But I looked at clubs fail, and the first reason is that around is we had 5 of us who decided to own the club. And what I mean by own the club is that we took responsibility to see if the club succeeded. If you have a business, somebody owns the business and they solve the problems in the business. They don't allow the problems to continue over and over and over again. But there's a lot of Toastmasters clubs that they go, we need to get new members in. Oh yeah, we got to do that. You know, we got to get more, we got to get some people through their educational programs. Yeah, we really need to do that. But nobody sits down and goes, okay, I'm the one that's going to make that happen. Let's go. Or there's 5 of us here. We're going to make sure this happens. So the number one reason I've seen the clubs fail is that nobody owns the club. The number 2 reason is they don't do the program. And the Toastmasters program is the educational program. It used to be the legacy program. Now it's Pathways. And quite honestly, I mean, I don't want to go down the Pathways rabbit hole right now. I'm not crazy about Pathways at all, but it is what we have. But if you just speak, if you do those programs and you get your members to speak on a frequent basis, they're going to get the benefit of speaking on a regular basis. So the 3rd reason that clubs fail is that they don't promote and they don't bring in new members. But if somebody owns the club, making sure that it's going to stay there, you get people to do the program and they start winning with the program and you promote to new members, I've seen that clubs, you know, that clubs expand. And of course, owning the club there's a lot of steps to go with that. Now, the other thing that I saw that we really worked on in the club was that there are 4 areas of development in Toastmasters. We've been known for years as a communication and public speaking organization. What was it, 10 years ago or something, we changed to where leaders are made. But there's 4 specific areas of development that have changed my life, and I feel people get out of Toastmasters. The first one is speaking. And that is prepared speeches, and it's also table topics. I probably had as much gain from table topics as being able to answer an unexpected question out in life with that skill as I was winning or doing prepared speaking. The second area is being what we call in Toastmasters an evaluator. In my club, we call it a coach. And the reason is people don't hire an executive evaluator. They don't hire an executive coach or an executive, a speech evaluator. They hire a speaking coach. And the idea is we want to coach people to a higher level of competence. And so we really focus on that in the club. It's not just about giving an evaluation. It's about making sure that the feedback we give you makes you into a more competent individual. And if we all look throughout our lives, there's probably people around us throughout our years that were there and helped us become a more competent individual. And those are very valuable people to us. And really, to me, the final product of the Toastmasters organization is not a competent leader, it's not a competent speaker, but it's someone who can make and develop in another a competent leader and a competent speaker. It's someone who can coach people effectively and improve the competency and the abilities of others. And that's a phenomenal skill to have in life. And I've learned so much in Toastmasters on how to work with other people. And what I do on a daily basis in my life outside of Toastmasters is working with people, building their competence, and learning how to give them feedback and finding out what's going on with them, why they're not succeeding, and figuring out how they can become more successful with the businesses I work with. Third area of development is effective meeting management. And we learn that starting being a table topics master, then a general evaluator, then a Toastmaster. We learn how to run the meeting on time, run it effectively. And in most businesses, people hate going to meetings because they don't start on time, they don't end on time, and everything in the middle is a waste of time. And people love coming to my meetings when I've held them because the room's set up properly. There's a bottle of water. On every seat, there's an agenda. I'm at the front door greeting them when they come in. It's just like a Toastmasters meeting for me. I learned how to do that at Toastmasters. The meetings run on time or they end early. I don't allow people to go off and go off on some tangent and occupy the meeting. We run it according to what the agenda is. Everybody knows I'm in charge of it. And I have people go, I love coming to your meetings. And that has made a huge difference in my success outside of Toastmasters. And then the third area of development is the leadership roles we learned by being an officer in the club and taking responsibility for running the organization. And so with my club, we really took every one of those things seriously. When you were Toastmaster, you were expected to run the meeting on time. You were expected to work out the timing sequences, the introductions, work with all the speakers and get their introductions in and have the whole meeting worked out. And so the members developed those skills. And that was one of the big areas of development that we had. And then when people were club officers, you were expected to do the job, but we really worked with you to make sure you were winning on the job as well. We have a lot of our own policy that we wrote and things on how to do it properly. And we filled in a lot of holes that Toastmasters didn't have covered, especially I think every club has its own unique characteristics for it. So Toastmasters gives us an overall sort of template on how we run the club. We need to figure out how does our club run the best. And that's really what we did because we said we had that ownership for ownership in the club. And with that, there's a couple of things I just want to hit on that I think I looked at, we run into, and why a lot of times we come into Toastmasters and the clubs fail or people are struggling. And I've hit on the fact that communication has been a relatively challenging point for us in life. And the other thing is our creativity winds up getting curbed a lot as we get socialized. When we were little kids, life was exciting and every day was the coolest thing and we could be happy playing with a stick in a box, and then we had our parents telling us to sit there and be quiet and be still. And there came a time I remember in my life where I got ready to do something. I looked at my mom and dad and I thought, what would they do or say if I did that? And then based on what they would do or say, that determined what I would do. And at that moment, I started to give over my own creativity to what I call the big people or the authorities in my life. And then the same thing happened in school. I learned if I wanted to succeed in school, creativity was not something I was rewarded for. I was rewarded for sitting in the seat at the right time, figuring out studying what other people figured out, and answering the questions on the test. I was never encouraged to stand an original thought, usually when I was in school. And then I get to work and they say, here's your desk, sit here, show up on time, don't rock the boat. And if we like you, at some point we'll promote you. And this happens to a lot of people in life where they turn off their own creativity, they turn off their own being the master of their own destiny, and they're waiting for people to open the door for them and give them the opportunity because they've sort of been socialized into that. And the Toastmasters environment, people come into that and they have been trained that if they show up on time and sit in the seat, that they're going to succeed. And that's the surest way for your club to die. When I was a kid, my parents had taken me to a lot of sort of religious retreats and stuff. And I remember we were at one and this minister's up in front and he said, sitting in a church won't make you into a Christian any more than sitting in a hen house will make you into a chicken. And it's the same thing in the Toastmasters Club. Coming to a Toastmasters Club and sitting in the club isn't going to make you into a speaker or a leader any more than sitting in a hen house is going to make you into a chicken. You got to get up and do it. And it's a little unnerving for people because we've been rewarded most of our life for sitting there and being quiet and following the rules and not rocking the boat. And this is where we actually learn to stand on our feet. So we have that mentality. The other thing I've seen is a lot of people have what I call a failure mentality. I know in the Peanuts cartoon, Lucy used to say Charlie Brown had a failure face. He had a failure mentality. But most people have gone through life, they have more failure than they do success. And they've tried so many things in life, and then they come to Toastmasters and have these hopes. And the thing they can default really easy to like, well, this is one more in life, just isn't going to work out. It's saying, no, make this work. Let's figure out how to make this thing work. And so we have the failure component that most people are carrying around. And I had a certain amount of that. And because of the group, and quite honestly, I think a lot of you know Roberta Perry was just such a spark plug in our club. And there were so many times the club was struggling or the meeting was going off the rails, and Roberta was there to say, nope, we're going to put it back on. This is what we're going to do. And you realize you could actually make this thing happen, make it go right. You didn't have to fail at it. And you start to get the confidence you can win and succeed. And these are the real benefits to me in Toastmasters. It's got to be a safe place to fail, but at the same token, you want to have it, you know, as people fail, they're not afraid to fail anymore. And so they're willing to go forward and succeed with it. And on it, so like I said, to me, we're really dealing with the essence of the human existence in this organization. We're giving people an opportunity to stand up, speak, and lead, where most of the times in their life, they're not given those opportunities. We're willing to listen to them. We're willing to allow them to help us with good coaching and feedback, and that their input's important to us. We actually allow them to run and organize the meetings and take control and take a bigger sphere of their life and put into that. And then eventually we allow them to run an organization. And I do a whole talk, and actually I was talking yesterday at another meeting that with Smedley One that Richard was on with me on. I really look at Toastmasters as sort of like an internship, where you come in and you have to run this organization, and it's a great place to make mistakes, figure out what your strengths are, figure out what your weaknesses are, strengthen your weaknesses, and identify the fact that I am really good at some components on this, so that when you go outside of Toastmasters, you can be more successful. One of the things we do too at Renaissance Speakers is we start the meeting off, and one of the things we ask every meeting is speakers that spoke outside the club. And anybody who spoke outside the club gives just a real quick, where'd you speak, how many people, were there. We reward people that speak outside the club, because that's the product. We want people actually going out in the world doing things. We don't just want you to speak in Toastmasters. So we reward that in the club. And so that, people, if they did do something, they can tell the club, I went out and used my Toastmaster skills along that line. So just to sort of summarize this thing around is that in building the club up, like I said, we really took ownership of it. We got everybody to do the program, and then we started promoting the club. And as the members were winning in the club, they started bringing the members in because they were winning by doing the program. And we focus on what I call the 4 years of development, which is the speaking, the coaching, the meeting management, and the leadership. And then we also created a club culture that if you're in the club, we expect you to be there on time. We expect you to wear all the different hats and take all the different responsibilities. If you come to the club and you only want to speak and you only show up on those days, we're going to have a chat with you and say that's not what the program is. And when we brought people into the club and new members, we walked through the program, what was expected of them. And if they weren't interested in that, ask them to they'll probably need to go join another club, not our club. This is how our club runs. We have high standards. And one of the things I know is that high standards actually build a great organization and a strong club. Weak standards build a weak club. And I've seen a lot of Toastmasters clubs that they're trying to get membership, so they seem to lower their standards down to get more membership. And that's the surest way to kill your club. Take your standards up higher. We want better people in the club, not worse people from that standpoint. So with that, let me take a little break here. We've been going about 30 minutes or so, and see if I got a timing thing up there. I'm flipping through them. I got a yellow card up there, so I saw that. I had to flip on my phone. Let's, Richard, if we can, let's take some Q&A from people and have some dialogue here. That'd be fun. Because I'm sort of going through as I zip down the 5 here, the different points that I have, but let's address some specific issues that people have. You're still muted, Richard, so.
Lance, while Richard is unmuting, Marcus asked a question in the chat. How do you respond when the general evaluator loses track of the GE's responsibility?
Well, that's part of that's part of the development you have. As an officer in the club, say the president and vice president of education, sit down with them afterwards and say, this is, okay, let me give you some feedback on your general evaluator. Feedback on that. And I've started about 16 clubs, and you take brand new people. I've had general evaluators stand up and they evaluated everybody's speech. I'm going, what are you doing? After the meeting, they said, oh, I thought I evaluated the speeches. I said, no, that's what the speech evaluators are for. But you have to give a feedback. The other thing that we've done is we sort of have a general evaluator form that said, here are the points we want you to report on. Here are the points we want you to watch. Okay, did the meeting run on time? Did the Toastmaster have a theme? Did they introduce people properly from the standpoint? How did the table topics master do? We have a specific, we always want the table topics question answered first, ask first, and then pick the person that they're going to ask. And we have a calling order where the people that don't have a role, the functionaries, coaches, and then the speakers as the calling order. So if you call speakers up front, you're going to get the general evaluator is going to say, look, know your calling order. So we expect that. And, introductions on the speakers, transitions, the whole thing. But did the meeting run on time? So we have a form that we give to the person so they have something that we can now, just like you would on a speaker, we can say, here's what's expected, here's what you did. And then we always do it with a lot of love and understanding. We don't beat up our people because we keep a fun, friendly environment. But I think you need to give the feedback after the meeting, not during the meeting. Let the person, it's a safe place to fail. Let them fail, screw up, and then talk to them afterwards. This is what you should, let me give you some feedback on your general evaluation.
Lance, I have a question. In your introduction, you mentioned the club was built to 95 members. How did you accomplish that? And then, do you think the club got too big? How do you keep people involved if there's 95 members?
I got to tell, well, first of all, most of your clubs, you have about 30% of your membership that's turning over. Okay, so Toastmasters International runs, we roll over somewhere between 35 and 40% of membership, and that happens at the club level. We did a couple things. First of all, it was a lot of fun having a club that big. It was a tremendous amount of energy, and we put in an extra position instead of the vice president of education doing all the scheduling. We also put in a vice president of production that just did scheduling, and the vice president of education just followed education achievement. But we expanded the club delivery to meet the demands of the membership. And I see this with a lot of clubs where, especially like a corporate club where they meet at noon, once a week, and they have a 1-hour meeting, and they build up to like over 30 members, and they only have 3 speakers in a meeting, or 2 or 3 speakers, and they can't get the people through their program. What we did is we went to 2 meetings a week the second half of the year. And then after our meeting, we usually go to lunch. The weekend, we'd have 3 or 4 speakers at lunch. And if anybody had an opportunity, if anybody who was speaking outside the club have a video, and we to meet the education requirements of the membership, we didn't cap the delivery of the club based on the time of the club. And that's it's just the same thing you do in a business. If you had a bakery, you're running an 8-hour shift, and all of a sudden you get the demand for your baking goods are more than you can do in 8 hours, you put on another shift and you bake more stuff. You don't say, I'm sorry, we're only baking so many loaves of bread today. You go, no, we got to figure out how to deliver more. And so we expanded the delivery of the club at that point. But yeah, we, with 95 members, and understand, I said we had, of that, we probably had a good 25 of those that were in some sort of a transition where they'd moved, they were going back to school, they were pregnant, you know, whatever. They were doing something. They weren't that active. So with 95, we probably had about 70 active, but we wound up with 57 educational completions. So we got 57 of those 70 through 10 speeches with their education completions in it. And those are the types of metrics that you have to run on it. But the big thing is, what you do is you have to expand your delivery to fulfill the needs of your membership, because the members won't come if there's not value, if they're not getting value out of the program, and they get value out of the program by doing the program.
I think he pretty much answered your question, but Dr. Michael Alexander, did you have a follow-up question for Lance? Okay, I guess not. Anybody else a question for Lance Miller? Either speaking or building a championship club. Yes, Ralph, you're on mute though.
Lance, I got the impression listening to your CD on your speech and from other tidbits that staying within the bounds of qualification is really a matter of being in control of your speech. Each time segment goes with a different part of your speech, and if you practice enough, you know you don't need a clock. You know exactly where you are. Would you agree with that conception?
Well, here's the point. You got to know your speech, not have it memorized. That's one thing. It's a completely different thing to know it. And you have to know where you need to be when the green light comes on, know where you should be with the yellow, know where you should be with the red, so that you're not thrown off by it. So yeah, you should be familiar enough with the fact that it's going to come in, but when those lights come up, you should know, that you're familiar with your timing on where you should be, and you're not relying on the lights, which I used to do in all my early competitions. I really let the lights dictate the speed at which I was delivering the speech. And I know Richard said I went over 2 seconds. My recollection was when I talked to the timers in 2003, I went over 1 second, but 2 seconds, it's still, I just went 1 second. There's gonna be a great speech in this someday, but right now I'm just, irritated, so, it's better than go over 1 second to me. That makes a great speech. Going over 35 seconds, it's like, well, boy, you really screwed up. But anyway, it was so close. But what happened, because I went over what I recall was 1 second, I really, really worked on that timing, and I also, Dana Lamont, he was at that regional, and I was talking to him, and Dana, as he does, he goes, Lance, it's a 5 to 7 minute speech contest. It's not 7.5 minutes. They give you 30 seconds leeway. Of course, I'm sitting right next to him, and he's talking to me like I'm sitting across the room. And I sat there and I went, I feel about as stupid as I can feel right now. It is a 5 to 7 minute speech contest, but I used to try to get 7:25 out of every speech. And after that, I just worked on getting 5 to 7 minutes. I was fine. But yeah, you need to know your timing.
So to recap, Lance, you talked about 3 important things that you surveyed, and the number 1 was fun. See
Right.
friends was number 2, and number 3 was improve from Toastmasters by speaking. You also talked about 4 areas. where they can improve speaking, evaluation, which your club calls coach. And I've attended Renaissance speakers several times, a number of times over the years. And if you're ever able, they're not meeting in Hollywood. Maybe you can share with us where the club meets. You also talked about effective meeting management, which we all learn, and of course, leadership skills at the club and beyond. So I haven't attended the new location. Where does the Renaissance speakers now meet? Sounds like you're still on Sundays.
We're still on Sundays, and we moved to, of course, we're a Church of Scientology based club, and we moved to the church in Pasadena, but we haven't been there because COVID's been, and we meet virtually every week. We have never had a meeting there yet. So on that, but they've got a beautiful facility there right on Raymond and Colorado, Old Town, and so we're looking forward to getting in there once things open up again. But you're welcome to join us online, and we meet 9 to noon on Sunday mornings. And it's interesting. One of the other things that was very, I have a tendency to analyze things and go, well, why is this working? Our church doesn't have a Sunday morning service. And so it was a time that everybody had off, and they'd usually sleep in and read the paper and eat an omelet or something. And we wound up having the meeting then, and it was sort of a wasted time, other than you were relaxing, enjoying yourself, but it wasn't a real productive time for people. And we wound up with not a lot of conflicts at that time for for the members, and that was one of the things that's kept it really stable, because people get so busy with things now, and so all of a sudden what happens is they have a Wednesday night and they can't do it on Wednesday night anymore. So but also guests are welcome to attend. We have a lot of guests because of my speaking. We have guests come from all over the world all the time, and it's funny, it's sort of everybody jokes about it, but out in the world, my club is known as Lance Miller's Club, because I talk about Renaissance speakers all the time. I'm very proud of it, but my club takes exception to that it's not my club. And
I know of at least one past international director that's also done quite well in Toastmasters. A number of your members have. Yes. Roberta Perry's a member of the club too.
Exactly.
Anna has a question. Anna Napoli.
Okay.
Napoli.
Yes. Thank you, Richard. Yes, Lance, I want to know, in this club of yours that is so good and so strong, and a leader of the clubs, how was your transition to Pathways? Did you lose any members? Did you have some of those older members that they were in the legacy and really enjoying the legacy educational program? How did they handle Pathways, and did you lose any of the members?
We didn't lose any to Pathways, but it was, I would just say we used to play a game with a ball and a net. It's called basketball. And now we play a game with a ball and a net, and it's called water polo. And that's sort of, to me, what happened with Pathways. But we had a number of members that were resistive to it, and we worked with them. We have a Pathways champion in our club who, works with them to try to get them on, on the program and doing it, and just say, look, one of the things too, we've just said, instead of here's this Pathways program and it says to do this specific thing and you're supposed to watch these videos, just do the speech and we're going to evaluate you by that program. And that's what we did a lot with the CCs and stuff too. You did a speech and then you said, well, I'm going to do number 5 vocal variety with that, or I'm going to do this one as working with words, and stuff. So, okay, I'm going to do my speech, but evaluate me on that. So we just kept it fun for people. And we had someone who helped them go in, but man, I don't necessarily want to go down this rabbit hole, but the Pathways interface is one of the worst interfaces I've ever seen. And the way that program is set up, to me, it's worse than COVID. But anyway, like I said, my concern is that we've had, it's my understanding, a pretty significant drop in membership in Toastmasters, and my concern is that they'll assign it to COVID. And like I said, you got to call a spade a spade. You got to find you have to have a right diagnosis to solve the problem. But anyway, we'll see. The thing is, it's the program we got. We're pushing with it as much as we can. I've done 3 level 5s in it, so it's not something that I haven't worked with. So on it. But to answer your question, no, we didn't lose any members over it, but we had a lot of resistance on it, and we had a high affinity for the club. And people loved the club. They didn't want to leave the club, but there was a lot of resistance to pathways. But that was the fun, friendly part, and that's what the fun, friendly part is what kept in the club. And then we had the program, and so we're using, again, loving them, caring for them, and then getting them on the pathways program and working them through that.
So with your 3 level 5 that you have completed, did you watch the videos or did you just do the speeches?
Just did the speeches. Quite honestly, just, we start to go down thing. There's not a whole lot I haven't done in speaking. I'm not in Toastmasters because I need to be a better speaker. I'm in Toastmasters because I want to maintain my club. I want to help other people get more out of the program. It's sort of like I talk about, really the final product to me is Toastmasters is making other people more competent. And I want to be here to help other people get more out of the program. I go through the examples. I typically look at the evaluation forms. I look at the objectives of the speech and what needs to be done on it and stuff. I know how to do PowerPoints. I've done tons of podcasts. I've got 5,000 speeches under my belt. It's not like I got to go do a pathways program to improve my speaking. I look at the pathways program and I look at some of it and I go, I'm supposed to learn from this? Are you kidding me? Not me, but I'm going, someone's supposed to learn from this? Okay, I think it's going to confuse people more. It's going to help them. But the thing is, in life, you sort of got to take what you've got and make it work. And that's one of the things I say with pathways. That's what we got right now. We got to make it work. So let's make it work. It's not going away. So,
Lance, somebody put in the chat box, great ideas, but I missed some of them or half of them. I'd be willing to pay for a transcript. Have you written this out, the speech out?
Look, I've got a lot of it's on my Championship Club CD. I've got, it's the basic information's on there. I've got how to promote and market a club. I've got leadership for a championship club. That's why I've recorded a lot of information. Those are on my websites and they're free. They're downloads. I have free speaking tips cards, free speech evaluation tips cards. I have free how to build a championship club tips card on the website. You can download for free because I've tried to make this available to Toastmasters and stuff. I'm not in a situation that I can just produce everything and spend hours and hours a week doing Toastmaster stuff for free all the time. That's why I created some products that I'd make 20 bucks on here and there so that I could continue to do it. But anyway, that most of this material's on there. And then I've got a bunch of these, since COVID's been going on and we're doing all this virtual stuff, I've recorded a bunch of these seminars. And again, it's just a matter of time. I'm trying to get it set up on my website where I can post a half a dozen or a dozen presentations that people can go online and listen to themselves. And I just have them on that because I'm really busy with my business and stuff now. And so I still do as much with Toastmasters as I can, but I'm just trying to make sure the information's available if people want to find it.
Okay, and Paul has put in your link to your website. Thank you, Paul Brooks. So those who are interested in more information or some of Lance's products, there you go. We have a few more minutes. Does anybody else have a question for Lance about building a championship club or being a championship speaker? Yeah, I thought I saw somebody's hand. Just go ahead and ask the question if you have. David, is that your hand up or are you? You're on mute. You're on mute though. Okay, I'm not sure if he has a question or he's adjusting his camera. All right, thank you very much, Lance. What a treat, and in his car, and thank you, Lance, for sharing your knowledge and experience with us. We're all you've done so much for Toastmasters. Thank you for all you continue to do.
You're very, very welcome, and glad to do it again sometime.
Thank you, Lance. We're going to segue into part 2 of our program tonight. We've heard Lance talk about building championship clubs, and we've heard a little bit about the Distinguished Club program. And we have our district director, Distinguished Toastmaster, Suzanne Leonard, who's going to tell us about the importance of being President's Distinguished. Suzanne is celebrating 10 years as a Toastmaster this August. So congratulations, Suzanne. She has contributed her time, talent, and treasure to the 4 Toastmaster clubs to which she belongs. Toastmasters is one of Suzanne's most important lifetime investments, and I'm sure it is for many of us. But she's given a lot more than a lot of us. And yes, that includes her twice-a-year investments in her clubs to continue to learn speaking and leading skills. Suzanne is a distinguished Toastmaster, qualified speaker, and one of your district leaders. She's our district director this year. Currently completing a level 5, and it's great leading by example, giving pathway speeches in strategic leadership. Suzanne champions the idea of speaking with rather than speaking to our families, our business colleagues, and our fellow Toastmasters. Please help me welcome Distinguished Toastmaster, District 12 Director, Suzanne Leonard, with her speech titled, "The Importance of Being President's Distinguished."
Mr. Toastmaster, what are the timing rules? Is it 5 to 7?
All of them are 5 to 7, so we'll hopefully have a little bit of time for question and answers at the end.
Very well.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Wow. And I wrote that. I'd forgotten where I'd been and what I'd done. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be a 10-year Toastmaster coming up. I was born into, if you will, in my Toastmaster era of speaking and being and growing into a President's Distinguished Club. I didn't realize at a time what a gift that was, but I've come to grow and appreciate and love how important it is to be part of a President's Distinguished Club. You'll hear more about Valley Toastmasters, the club that rocks, a little bit later in our program. But I want to ask you this. How many of you are currently, those of you on the screen, are members of a President's Distinguished Toastmaster Club? Show of hands. Who's a member? Okay, about half or so. How many of you would like to be members of a President's? Okay, all hands should be up now. You're either in one, or you're growing one, or you think you might want to grow one. All right, thank you so much. I'm going to talk about 2 important points that I learned that I think are pivotal to club ownership, club growth, having fun, reaching your goals, and all the things that Lance already spoke to us about. When Richard was introducing me, he spoke to the idea of speaking with, not talking to. I know before I was a Toastmaster, I did a lot of talking to people, students, situations. But I learned in Toastmasters to speak with my fellow Toastmasters, and they helped me learn to speak with my aging friends and my little toddlers that I taught at the time. I think that's a very important thing for us to remember, is that we are speaking with colleagues, we are speaking with people who want the same things that we do, some leadership skills, some direction in speaking, some new words to learn, the ability to put together a speech that we could, by its bones and by its beauty, place anywhere, because we know about an introduction, we know about the meat of a speech, and we know how to have a positive conclusion. So we build early on. That late August night, August 11th, as a matter of fact, I had gone to my first Toastmaster meeting and we were all milling around outside, and I wondered why. Well, it seemed that the sergeant at arms had not shown up and we were locked out, which is why my first position as a club leader was sergeant at arms, to make sure everybody was able to get into the meeting. But we were very engaged in wanting to have a meeting. So we walked across the street to Pizza Chalet and came upon a party of young, sweaty little baseball boys with lemonade and pizza. We wove our way to the back of Pizza Chalet and we had a meeting. And I learned about table topics and I heard some great speeches, and I was present in some very important evaluations where they talked about everything that had gone well, a few little things that you might want to look at and to challenge yourself. And I thought, wow, nobody's ever done my speaking that way. It's always been that pointed finger and saying, you should have said this, you should have said that, you could have done this, you could have done that. And I thought, oh, I could get used to that kind of evaluation. And so I joined, and the rest is history. I had no idea of moving into leadership. Any of you in leadership roles now because of what you learned in Toastmaster, and at the time, you had no idea. The 2 points I want to bring home to us tonight as we talk about becoming a President's Distinguished Club. First of all, we've set our goal high this year, as we were encouraged to do by Lance, and we'd like to know we will be a Smedley Distinguished District. Take a breath, that's big. There's never been one before, but we've never had the people that we have now in our leadership positions. When I was selecting our area directors for you, 21 of them, every single one was enthusiastic, was already engaged, had plans and ideas for how they were going to serve District 12. Then I signed my agreement as a new member, considering all these things. And there was something on the other side called the Toastmaster Promises. Remember the Toastmaster Promises? We were supposed to keep them. So I read them all down and I checked them off as I pursued membership. And I thought, you know, I'm being a really good member. But here's the important thing. In my club leadership, my President's Distinguished Club leadership, my president and vice president of education and vice president of membership and VPPR and secretary and treasurer and sergeant at arms were also promising things back to me. Let me remind you of a couple of those if it's been a while since you took a look at your Toastmaster promises. You see, club ownership, club leadership, fun and fantastic speeches are born of a collaborative relationship. When you signed on as a Toastmaster and promised to serve as a leader, to help the club, to treat everyone fairly, to act with integrity, to prepare your projects, you did that as a Toastmaster. We, as your club and area and division and directors, promise the same thing back to you, only it's not written anywhere. We've already done that as a conscientious Toastmaster. And now we've just taken that to the leadership level where we prepare our speeches and we begin and end meetings on time if we're the Toastmaster. What I really loved about being part and still do of Valley Toastmasters is if we're running a little late, our table topics person will ask mid-meeting, because that's where we plan Toastmasters, how we're doing on time. And they will say one more table topic or we're complete for that now. And that buys us back a couple of minutes in the time. The evaluators that come next also are looking at their notes. So they give a complete evaluation, not too much, not too little, just what is applicable for that Toastmaster to move on up to the next part of that particular speech. So you see, my friends, President's Distinguished, Distinguished, Select Distinguished, Smedley District is all about the collaborative effort. And once we all agreed to that, and we all know that we're helping hands to each other, then we present early on, about this time of year, what we call the Distinguished Club Plan, the DCP, the path to walk on step by step, member by member, educational by educational. And here's the good news. In that plan, by the time you do all the levels and you have those 8 members, but you don't have to stop there, you progress to distinguished. If you just begin now, you could be distinguished by December. Take a breath, have an extra cup of eggnog, and then pursue on to President's Distinguished. Hit that goal by the end of April or May. And do you stop there? Oh, no. You reach out as mentors and sponsors and coaches to your area and your clubs that need your expertise. So you're a team. You're a Smedley team. And you keep moving on up to the next way that you're going to express your communication and your leadership skills in your personal life, in your professional life, as a Toastmaster. Speak with, not speak to, engage with, and you'll find you're at the top in no time at all, because it's members that take us to Smedley Distinguished. Mr. Speakers Bureau Chair.
Thank you, Suzanne, for a wonderfully delivered speech. Speaking with as opposed to speaking to. I love the idea. And I think we learned that in Toastmasters, speaking with as opposed to speaking to. Have you ever wondered how certain clubs finish President's Distinguished year after year after year? As I mentioned in my introduction or at the beginning, this is my 3rd consecutive year as Distinguished or Club Quality Chair in District 12. And a few years ago, I did a little research. I went through most of the clubs that have a rich history of being President's Distinguished. Many, many clubs are President's Distinguished 3, 4, 5 years, and then hit a little bump in the road and they miss it. But I discovered 5 clubs in District 12 at that point. And what I did is I checked Toastmasters International's website. At that point, it went back 10 years. Only 5 clubs had been President's Distinguished every year for the past 10 years. Well, that was 2 years ago. Now it's 12 years. District 12, 5 clubs have been President's Distinguished. And it may be more. It only goes back the last 12 years. So tonight we're going to hear from 5 either club presidents, recent presidents of those 5 clubs, and they're going to share some of what they've done, especially during times of COVID, and what makes that club unique. They have that culture where it's an expectation. But before introducing our first speaker from one of those clubs, in 1993-94, I was club president of Master Motivators, club number 7213 in Claremont, California. That year, Master Motivators finished number 5 in the world in the 20 to 29 categories. Lance Miller mentioned the Distinguished Club program 25, 30 years ago looked a lot different. It was based on points. And yes, some clubs loved it and other clubs didn't care at all for it. A CTM at that time, competent Toastmaster, would be 750 points. And I'm sure Lance and his group, just like Master Motivators, would get everybody together at the beginning of the year. Who can contribute a CTM this year? Who can do an ATM, Advanced Toastmaster? And we kept everybody hopefully on target. That year, Master Motivators finished number 5 in the 20 to 29 category. There are 5 categories of that, 4 categories: under 20, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, and above 40, 40 and above. District Master Motivators became the first President's Distinguished Club in District 12 at that point, and the club went on to finish President's Distinguished for the 5 years following year before the Distinguished Club program changed. It's been President's Distinguished ever since. Our next speaker, Anna Napoli, Distinguished Toastmaster Anna Napoli, hoped to improve her public speaking skills and began her Toastmasters journey when she joined her first Toastmasters club, Master Motivators Club number 7213 in July 2014. She not only improved her communication skills, but also learned how to lead a club by serving in different officer roles and supporting fellow Toastmasters in their journey. She is very proud of serving as president of Master Motivators Club number 7213 and helping achieve President's Distinguished Club Award with 10 goals once again in our Toastmaster year 2020-2021. Moving forward, embracing your potentials, not just hers, but also Master Motivators. Committed to the club and its members, Anna embraced the challenges that this past year has brought forward. Let's hear how she managed and collaborated with Master Motivators officers and members to earn once again the President's Distinguished Award, the highest award a Toastmasters club can achieve. Speaking on once again, please help me welcome Distinguished Toastmaster Anna Napoli. Anna.
Thank you very much, Richard. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. When I attended Master Motivators in 2014, I was welcomed by a distinguished Toastmaster, Saeed Sheikh, with "Welcome to the world's finest club with the world's finest members." I thought, aren't they all the finest clubs? Are you not saying that your club is the finest club? I've learned that Master Motivators have been President Distinguished year after year, as Richard just mentioned. However, this was not always the case. The club was chartered in January 1st, 1989, and had the name of Metaphysical Modulator. And like all the other clubs, they started with 20 strong members. That they find themselves 3 years later with less than 10 members and at risk to be closed. I understood that the district brought a coach to the club, and unless I'm mistaken, that coach was Distinguished Toastmaster Richard Snyder. Now he mentioned that he was also the president. He gave me some statistics, but I wanted to concentrate on what I know, what I could see at Toastmasters International with my research. So the district assigned this coach. Then they changed leadership. They had the Chuck and Dolores Weck joining the club. They changed location that Dolores ensured a place at the Claremont Graduate University. They changed that instead of meeting twice a month, they started meeting every Sunday, and they changed their name to Master Motivators. This was the beginning of a President Distinguished Club legacy, in which members have learned to be better communicator and excellent leaders. This, can you see my slide? I think I see some nodding. Okay, this slide shows you then for 2004, 2005 to today, Master Motivators has been President Distinguished with 10 goals every single year. That is 17 years of President Distinguished with always more than 20 members, at times in the 50s. This is a slide that I want to show you that very important. See this goal number 9? This shows that all our officers are asked to go to the training. So year after year, you can see that we had 7 or 6, the majority is 7 officers that went to the training. Why did they go to the training? because if they were trained, they would be able to help our members. So the president went to training for what? To learn to lead. The vice president of education to schedule and assign the roles to our members so that they can grow. The VP of membership, so that she or he can change those guests that they come into our club to become members. The VP of public relations to announce to the whole world, come to Master Motivators and have some fun and learn with us. The treasurer, the training for the treasurer is one part is to remind all of us to renew on time. The secretary makes sure that all the history is recorded, and the sergeant at arms, as Suzanne mentioned, it's very important that if that person is not there to open the Zoom link or to open the doors, then the meeting cannot happen in that location or in that way. This slide that I got information on is, these are 25 clubs all over the world that they have completed 10 goals for 17 years consecutively. And Master Motivators is right there. And you know, Lance Miller's club is not in here because on the first year, 2004, 2005, they were President Distinguished, but they had nine goals completed, or they would have been in that list too. We have had many challenges this year. COVID-19 pandemic affected all of us. And, but as Toastmaster, we adapt and we met via Zoom. All members had to learn a new way to meet online. We lost many members. Many of them did not want to meet in Zoom. Many of them were not comfortable with this new technology. And we did lose some members that they were not interested in working on the Pathway Educational Program. We also lost 3 of our officers. They resigned and left our club. This was a crucial moment for Master Motivators that we needed all hands on. I am very proud of Master Motivators, not because that they elected me president, but because members stepped up and with an outstanding officers team and supportive members, we worked very hard and completed 10 goals while our members were achieving their own goals. However, our membership was low. May came, we did not have our 20 members. It was a suggestion we made to all the members and officers to reach out to former members, to guests, to prospects, to family members, to friends, co-workers, and people came. And by June 30th, we had 21 members. This experience has helped us all grow and learn in this difficult time. And once again, we succeeded in achieving the President Distinguished Club Award. Each club in the District 12 can achieve what Master Motivators and other clubs have achieved with the support of the members. Go and encourage all your members to work with on their project and to invite family and friends. Fellow Toastmasters, remember, the Toastmaster experience is valuable to anyone who embarks in it. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Anna. Very well done. Thank you for sharing history of Master Motivators and how you overcame a membership. You guys worked together to accomplish it. Great job. Our next speaker had a 20-year Navy career. He was a Vietnam veteran. Thank you for serving. And had a 26-year aerospace career as a data analyst, trainer, and logistics engineer. I'm doing the math, and he's at least 60. 19 years as a Toastmaster and still having fun. All right. Goes back to Lance's speech about having fun. He just completed a term of officer as president for Valley Toastmasters, the club that rocks. This year, Valley was President's Distinguished for the 15th consecutive year. Goal! Speaking on Occam's, Razor, and the DCP, please help me welcome Distinguished Toastmaster, John Reece. John.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. I want to talk about Occam's razor. That's a philosophical axiom that says the simplest explanation for a phenomenon is usually the correct one. Attributed to William of Occam and written in the early 14th century. President's distinguished status for a club is a phenomenon, and it has a simple cause. Set goals, make a plan, and execute to the plan. Fellow Toastmasters, last year I had the honor to be chosen to lead Valley Toastmasters, the club that rocks. For the 14th consecutive year, they had just achieved President's Distinguished status. I had no intention of allowing that string to be broken on my watch. So my story begins with the goal part. I did not simply make the goal President's Distinguished status. I broke it down into 3 pieces. Achieve all 10 DCP goals. Make Valley Toastmasters the most well-known club in the district. And make Valley set the standard for recognition of individual member accomplishments. Fortunately, I didn't need to make fun and friendly a specific goal because that's been a hallmark of the club ever since I joined it 7 years ago. Then I made the plan with my executive committee. And the first piece of the plan was to ensure that all 7 of our officers were trained. 4 officers trained is a standard, but I wanted my whole team entirely on board. I've never attended a Toastmasters officer training where I did not learn something valuable, and I've never facilitated such a training where I did not garner even more. Next was a focus on membership building. I knew, based on monitoring the attendance at Zoom meetings, that we were likely to have a membership shortfall when the September 2020 dues cycle came around. But just getting back to charter strength was going to be one of the keys to our success. Additionally, having a full roster provides 2 things. 1, you have a sufficiently large group of individuals working on their own self-improvement goals. The DCP educational goals are almost a slam dunk. And 2, the larger pool of leadership talent supports a robust executive committee. My public relations and membership vice presidents, Peter Banzan and Roger Bowman, took joint responsibility for the membership building, supported by a committee consisting of, what do you think? The entire club. That's the membership committee. My Vice President of Education, Melissa Staskell, took primary responsibility for individual achievement recognition, and she went above and beyond doing that the entire year. And my Vice President of Public Relations, Peter, took primary responsibility for making our club well known. And then there was the execution of the plan. Obviously, we were successful overall, attaining President's Distinguished status for the 15th consecutive year. But in terms of the pieces of the overall goal, we slightly missed the mark on the all 10 DCP goals. We missed goal number 8. We didn't quite get 4 more new members. However, by setting the bar higher than was absolutely needed for President's Distinguished, gave us the wiggle room to achieve the overall PD result. As for club recognition and individual achievement recognition, I kind of did a poor job stating those goals at the beginning because they aren't really measurable. That didn't stop Peter or Melissa one bit. I cannot say for certain we're the best at those two things, but I think we're darn good. By the way, I think you all know Melissa. She's your club growth director this year. In fact, this was the best executive committee I ever had the honor to serve with, and I've served with some outstanding groups in my 19 years as a Toastmaster. Personally, the execution of the plan was nearly effortless, given that I had a phenomenal team that supported me. All I did was wave the baton and act like a cheerleader the whole year. So there you have it. You don't have to open a safe that is locked in a vault, that is buried in a volcano to find the formula for success achieving a President's Distinguished Club recognition. Set the bar high enough so that if you won't quite make it, you still make it. Make a comprehensive and specific plan and do what you said you were going to do and lead your team to do the same. Do this and you can't miss. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, John. I love the idea. Set the bar high. If you fall a little short, as your club did, of 10 goals, well, 9, you're still President's Distinguished. And also, so important getting all 7 club officers trained, having a comprehensive plan and working the plan. Thank you, John, for sharing. Our next speaker has been a Toastmaster since May of 2004. She joined Club 290 and has served in all club officer position leadership roles except treasurer and sergeant at arms. In addition, she has served in many District 12 leadership roles. Currently, Melinda is a doctoral student pursuing a PhD in leadership studies. In addition, she became a household name this summer as a global speaker, sharing her new 20-minute TED Talk, How to Be a Successful Change Agent in the Midst of Toxic Leadership. And we've seen some of that in our country in the last, I don't want to go too far, but in the last decade or less, plus a 45-minute workshop, Make Success a Mindset at Success Fest 21 in August. Look out for influence on all social media platforms starting this weekend. Lastly, she returns to television as a talk show host starting this late fall. In her spare time, I don't know if she has any spare time, she continues to serve Toastmasters and Grand Terrace Club 290 and is currently serving as Vice President of Education. And I know they have some wonderful programs of that club. Please help me welcome Distinguished Toastmaster, Qualified Speaker, Melinda Muganzo. Melinda.
All right, Club, everybody, District 12, how we doing? How we doing? Put your hands up if you're excited right now. Put your hands up. Let me see your hands up. Wake up. Come on, let's do some calisthenics to make sure our blood's flowing in our brains. Yes, let's talk about what that thing means. We all belong to a Toastmaster club. It's a wonderful, enriching experience. The wonderful enrichment that we experience is because we joined a club because we wanted to improve our communication skills. Isn't that why you joined the Toastmaster Club? I joined the Toastmaster Club in May of 2004. At the time, I was working in the Human Resource Management Department at Loma Linda University Medical Center. I was coordinator of training and orientation and then internship. I was concerned about my ability when I became an employment manager to be able to give constructive feedback to my employees that reported to me, but I wanted to be able to do it with tact and with diplomacy. That's why I joined Toastmasters. I joined Grand Terrace Toastmasters. I've enjoyed the whole privilege about learning and developing and growing. If you're in Toastmasters and you come to that, oh, I don't want to go to that meeting. Oh my God, this, meetings are boring. I got to wake up early, whatever. No, that's not why you join Toastmasters. You join Toastmasters to continue to soar like an eagle in your communication process. If you're not soaring, it's time for a checkup from the neck up. Hello. Come on, check yourself. What's going on with your energy level that you're receiving from your Toastmaster Club? Let me help you understand 4 key words, what keeps our club presidents distinguished. C.L.U.B. Yes, acrostics, that's what I do. C, you joined the club. For us, the letter C means what? It means community. We are a community where communication results in coordination, right? The coordination says that we as a team, we work together. The goal is with our club in 290, every month we have a goal. The club knows the goal for the month. We stay focused on that goal to achieve that goal as a community. Yes, see, you are a community. You work together to coordinate your efforts through the communication process. I serve as VPE now, and in my role as VPE, I was president last time, 2 terms ago actually, and I was president for a whole year cycle. I've been a president about 2-3 times. I've done every office, whatever. The point is, as vice president of education, I'm on a mission. My eyes are focused on every member to make sure that they're improving in their pathways experience. Yes, I'm happy to serve as a coach for my club members to help them reach their educational goals. Everybody is on a journey. You don't get to fall asleep in Club 290. That's not what we do in Club 290. It's all about the community. Got that C. Let's go to the letter L. We're talking about liberty. When you have a club, when you focus on staying presidents distinguished, consider the word liberty. Liberty says that your leaders feel empowered to do what they do, to do their job. Everyone has a responsibility, right? And in our leadership roles and what we play, we coordinate our efforts as a club leadership. We meet monthly as executive committee to make sure that every club leader has a goal for the month. Every club leader, VPPR, VPE, everybody has a role responsibility. Secretary, Sergeant at Arms, every officer has a goal for that month. We've planned out the whole 6 months from July to December, yes, to make sure we're on our goal to achieve Presidents Distinguished by December 31. We do this every year. We're on a mission, starts in July. We talk about the big picture, the big plan. What are the district goals? What are the district's incentives? We want to make sure we get every one of them. We're on the Smedley mission right now. Yes, we are. To get those 5 members. We are not playing around. Come on, Club 290, right? When you liberate leaders, they feel empowered to do what they do. So everyone's busy in helping the organization, the club, get a member. Invite somebody to Toastmasters. Everybody has responsibility. Invite someone to the club meeting. Yes, L, liberty. Everyone feels empowered. All the leaders feel empowered. Okay, let's go to the letter U. U says unity. Yes, we work together. We're unified. Everybody's unique, but we're still unified with the overall goal for Club 290. Everyone, we're all about being unified in what the goal accomplishment is. U. And then B. Wow, we know what Toastmasters means. B is brevity. We know that we're on a time limit when we have to speak. That's why it's important that the VPE organize with the teammates, with the club members to make sure we're ready for the meeting. Our agenda, if you look at the Club 290 meeting, is very time regimented, right on it. We stick to that time frame for the different aspects of the meeting. And we have 3 speakers for 90% of the time. Sometimes we have an educational, but we have 2 speakers, or we do something different. But like this Friday, I invite you to come this Friday because I was planning the meeting for this Friday, and we have quite a few members that are going to be gone, vacations, whatever they're doing. But guess what we're doing this Friday? We are doing Table Topics Jeopardy. Yay! And I have all the categories based on those crazy questions that people don't want to talk about. I hate being an evaluator. I don't want to be Toastmaster. All the things that people have negative, Those are my categories in the Jeopardy game for this Friday. You come visit our club meeting. We're about to have a good time and have some competition. The bottom line in staying President's Distinguished is always having a plan of action, always thinking long-term, making sure that all your officers are on the same page, making sure the club membership is on the same page. Keep motivated every month with your achievements and your goals, and stay motivated with the district incentives. That's how we keep ourselves reunited, reorganized, motivated. Those that fall off the ship and have things going on with their job, because we meet on Friday mornings at 7. Guess what? I don't forget about them. I still reach out to them. When are you available to serve in a role? What role would you like to serve in? Yes, make sure they serve in a role that they haven't served in before. So I'm telling you, it's all about the energy, the synergy that you bring to your club, doing things different, changing up the meeting every now and then. And that's how Club 290 stays President Distinguished. Bank on it. Back to you, Mr. Timer, fellow Toastmasters.
Thank you, Melinda. I had the opportunity to visit 290 this past year during the COVID and as a guest evaluator. And I think more than many clubs, maybe all clubs in 12, Club 290 took advantage. They saw opportunity with Zoom and had many, many guests from around the world visiting the club. And of course, with Melinda, they always have excitement. And it's a Friday morning club, much less. I love the acronym CLUB, Community, Liberty, Unity, and Brevity, and the expression, check up from the neck up. Thank you, Melinda, for sharing. Our next speaker joined Toastmasters in 2017, our newest speaker tonight, and her home club is Redlands Community Toastmasters Club 8950. Sunita is the former club president and Area D1 director, and she led Area D1 to President's Distinguished, so congratulations. She works as an accountant for Riverside County, so she's good with numbers, and is the current Division D director. She brings to the table quiet competence, attention to detail, team spirit, integrity, and a drive for success. Please help me welcome our next speaker, Innovative Planning, Level 3, Sunita Jain. Sunita.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You may be wondering, what makes Redlands Community Toastmasters stand out? Well, this year, this Redlands Community will make 30 years. We were chartered on July 1st, 1992. Now, out of those 30 years, we have been President Distinguished for 14 of those years. The expression, it takes a village to raise a child. In Redlands Community Toastmaster Club, it takes teamwork. One of the many benefits of being a Toastmaster is the opportunity to be part of a team. Teamwork is at the heart of Redlands Community Toastmaster experience. There is no I in teamwork. Every year, the members and the club officers come together to accomplish two common goals: members' growth and club accomplishments. The result of members accomplishing their personal goals in speaking and leadership is that it allows the club to shine. To achieve those common goals, every team member must be willing to make a sacrifice at some level or at some time. Last year, I was the club president. Since February 2020, the club has started meeting on Zoom already. The year started with nothing that Toastmaster considers normal. Just like any other Toastmasters club, we also had some obstacles that we had to work through. We had some meetings with only 4, maybe 5 members who attended. In those meetings, we did table topic as the main meeting item. And sometimes we just chit-chatted just to see how life was going with everyone. We experienced technical difficulties such as couldn't share screen, disruptions because somebody didn't mute themselves, or we couldn't use the chat. Each of these obstacles, disruptions, was managed with tactful and respectfully by addressing them as a group and not singling out any individual member for their action or non-action. During the fiscal year, the club had maintained a membership of 16 to 22 paid members, and we ended the year with 21 members. As the year moved forward, members became more accustomed to being on Zoom. And we had 12 to 16 members attending each of our meetings, along with some guests. Just like that, just like any other year, our club participated in the contest and was represented at the area contest. The members of this club have learned that teamwork and providing extra attention to members in need can and will create a successful club for the long run. One approach that worked for us this year was that we focused on the educational DCP goals from day one. This approach was successful, and we're utilizing the same approach this year. Another result of teamwork, in-house training on pathways, and excellence through perseverance is that the club's newer members have started working on their pathway speeches. They also started volunteering to take on club meeting roles, and some even stepped up this year to take on the club officer roles. The club was able to accomplish 9 of the 10 goals by mid-June, which allowed the club to open the meeting to assist other members in District 12 to present their speeches so that their club could become President Distinguished by June. I feel honored to have been given the opportunity to speak about this amazing club. The club has amazing members who are willing to take the extra step to help one another accomplish their personal goals. I'm very proud to call this club my home club and the members my friends. Sometimes we may scramble to fill the meeting roles. Some meetings may not be as polished as others, but the members of this club are always there to support one another. And we welcome guests with open arms and a huge smile. Currently, we meet on Zoom every Thursday evening at 5:45. Come visit this amazing club and you too will be welcomed with a huge smile. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Sunita. I love talking about obstacles. We all had obstacles, many obstacles with COVID in 2020 and going forward. And I love the idea you overcame those obstacles as a club by being tactful and respectful and through teamwork. I remember a quote or saying I heard from a good Toastmaster friend: teamwork makes the dream work. And it certainly made the dream work for Club 8950, Redlands Committee. We have one more speaker. We're going from our newest speaker on the program tonight to our most experienced speaker. Our final speaker tonight, scheduled speaker, is a distinguished Toastmaster and a friend for many years. He has been a member of Riverside Breakfast Club 1348, uninterrupted, over 50 years. During all those years, the club has been one of the strongest clubs in the district. He will share his ideas on helping your club to be consistently President's Distinguished. During the 2008-2009 Toastmaster year, Tom served as District 12's 20th district governor and led District 12 to distinguished status. All areas in the district that year finished distinguished or better. That was the first time. It never happened in District 12 before at that point. I think he did it the following year too. Please help me welcome distinguished Toastmaster, past district governor, and qualified speaker and Speakers Bureau co-chair, Tom Jameson.
Thank you, Richard, for those kind words, some of which I wrote and some of which you dug up on your own. So thank you for that. In the fall of 1968, I walked into a Toastmaster meeting at the invitation of my brand new boss, the principal of the school where I was teaching, a first-year California teacher. And he was the president of Club 1348. I looked around the room and I said, what am I doing here? I have no business being in this room with all these doctors and lawyers. There was a school board member, the county assessor, all kinds of really important and bright and intelligent people. And I thought, why am I, okay, I'll go to one meeting. But no, they asked me to come back. Why would these people want to have me in their group? And I kept coming back. And finally, when I did join, I couldn't imagine the honor of belonging to this particular club, because this club had been around for about 10 years at the time and had always been strong. Once upon a time, it had a congressman that belonged to it and all kinds of other important people in the community, member, the citizen of the year, and so on and so on. And I thought, I have no business being next to these people. And it wasn't for just a few years after that that I found out that all Toastmasters clubs weren't like that. They had typically 25 to 30 members. One time over the history of the club, they had well over 40, and they had to add an extra meeting in order to accommodate all of the members. But it was just amazing. And you know, somehow, you know, we look for officers all the time. They didn't ask me to be an officer right away. They somehow assumed that being sergeant at arms is what you had to start at sergeant at arms and work your way through those 7 officers over a period of 3.5 years. And so you had to prove your mettle, kind of like what Lance said in terms of you're owning your club. And so they kind of expected the sergeant at arms to get there on time on a regular basis. And that was a more difficult task for me then finally I learned that, yeah, if you want to do this, you better do it right. And I was honored with the idea of being sergeant at arms. And as I went through the chairs and as I became president, I stood up there and I don't believe the honor of being the president of this particular club. But I found that all clubs weren't like that. This club ran like a clock, and it still does. It starts on time. It starts at 7 o'clock in the morning and it ends at 8:30 in the morning. One time, 20 or 30 years later, I knew a member who I had known forever, a good friend, and I had been president for the second time. And he came up to me and said, things. But they thought well of their members, and when the members achieved something, they recognized it, which of course all of our clubs should always do. So they were doing the right things. In fact, one time I saw them stand up, 14 members in the room had been club presidents. So they had a history of continuing, and they maintain that to today. And I think Sonny will know better than I probably, but I think it's been 15 years anyway that they've been presidents distinguished in a row. But like I said, all clubs aren't like that. I also belong to another club that is consistently very good, usually presidents distinguished, and they never start on time. They never end on time. They don't sign up for their speeches ahead of time until the very week before. They just had to kind of almost throw it in a basket and people speak, but they do something else that Lance mentioned that was important, because they always have fun. If you don't have fun, that's one of the biggest keys to a successful club. If you don't have fun, even if you're not accomplishing all the educational goals, you're not becoming president's distinguished. If you're having fun, the club will probably continue to exist. Now, obviously, you need to meet the needs of the members. Now, that's my other biggest key to a successful club that will become distinguished and president's distinguished. If you don't meet the needs of the member, and so Lance also mentioned that, going up, finding out, some people talk about moments of truth, but as a program you might want to follow, but find out what your members really are trying to get out of the club, and that will help them lead you to getting that buy-in from your members. One of the keys, and I remember sitting in meetings and hearing, oh, you've got to be President's Distinguished and getting bored. What we need to do is convince the members of the why. Why do you want to have a President's Distinguished Club? And the why is that it will be a strong club. It'll be a club that I want to come here, that I will get the things out of it that I want to get out of it, and I will grow. And with everybody working, not just those 7 officers, with everybody working, you have a much better chance of achieving that success. Now, Melinda mentioned special events. So having those special events is important. Doing those things add a little excitement, recognize your members, and making sure that everyone feels they're a part of the program. Meeting those members' needs and making sure that you have done those typical things. I kind of think of the Distinguished Club program as kind of like, well, that is the logic of any organization, Boy Scouts or Kiwanis or whatever it is. You don't have dedicated officers who know what they're doing. They've been to training, have a program that is fun and interesting that people want to participate in, and have people, the educational program, following the program of doing the things that are expected of a program, if it's Boy Scouts camping out, if it's Kiwanis doing something else. And so follow the program, have your officers trained, and be looking for new members. I noticed even with Master Motivators, up to 25% every year were leaving on that list that she put out. So you will have to always go after those 6 or 8 new members. And I have a cute story. Never give up on a member. We once chased after a member that had been paying dues, believe it or not, for 10 years and got them to come back and give 1 speech to finish their CC. So never give up on members. Connie is, my wife's in a club that somebody came back after 30 years. And never give up on those old members, and never give up on a member that's in the club. Remember how great bragging about how great my club was. The worst speech I ever heard in Toastmasters, the members of the club tried very hard to make sure that person didn't quit and stayed in the club so they could grow. Helping those members and believing in your members and helping them achieve their goals is what's important. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you all of our speakers, from our keynote speaker, Lance Miller, to our district director, Suzanne Leonard, and our 5 speakers representing President's Distinguished Clubs. Melinda Muganzo with Grand Terrace Club 290, Tom Jameson, Riverside Breakfast, Anna Napoli, Master Motivators, Sunita Jain, Redlands Community Toastmasters, and John Reece, Valley Toastmasters. Thank you, one and all. And as the Club Quality Chair, DCP Chair, I'd be remiss if I didn't let you know, last year, 32 clubs in District 12 were distinguished or better. We heard from 5 tonight, but there were 32 that were distinguished or better. 20 of those were President's Distinguished. So if you weren't one of those clubs that was, or not a member of one of those clubs, get on that bandwagon. You can be President's Distinguished. We heard 7 great speakers tonight share what has worked with them and their clubs. We were going to have question and answer time, but it's 8:53, and I know we have some announcements. After the announcements, I invite you to stay around, and if you have any questions, hopefully our speakers will be able to stay for a little bit. But I promised we do have announcements. What would a Toastmaster gathering be without the ubiquitous announcements? And I'm going to start. I'll bring up our district director, Suzanne Leonard. I'm sure she has a few announcements.
I do. Thank you, Richard. My pleasure. Wow, I learned a lot tonight, and we'll put it to use. Thank you all for representing clubs that we aspire, to emulate. And, when ship rises, everyone comes up as well. So I have been to most of the clubs. I think maybe one I haven't. I think I've been to Riverside Breakfast as well, but in another lifetime, maybe Club Growth or something. But I want to invite you all to the big party. And of course, I would be speaking about the upcoming end of August Toastmaster International Convention. It's only $25 to go this year. You can sit back and watch and have a cup of coffee and eat your breakfast while you're listening to fantastic speakers, webinars, seeing and being presented with the best of the best in the world. It's great fun. It's a virtual party. So please be part of that. You'll hear things that you want to bring back to your clubs, building ideas, excellent tips on speaking, and you'll just be in that international camaraderie. So please do that for yourself, and then you'll bring back some great ideas that grow District 12. The second thing is that we are continuing to do makeups for those 7 of our 7 officers we want trained, because here's what we know. We tracked this last year also with those presidents, distinguished clubs, is you train your officers. There was a great correlation, a distinct correlation between clubs that had all 7 officers and clubs that were distinguished or better. So put that in your pocket and make sure that you get everyone trained. We have a training coming up tomorrow evening, August 5th. We have our newly named, used to be Tuesday with the trio. We thought maybe that was a little distancing, that maybe you just thought it was for me and Morris and Melissa. Not true. It's always been for you, but now we have a different name and we're calling it District 12 News. You need to know what's going on. So there are trainings there, some wonderful new ideas that your program quality director, Morris Anderson, is putting in place. Right now, we're getting ready to interview international candidates because that's part of what we're privileged to do on your behalf as district leaders. So stay tuned to that. I know some of you have been disconnected, and Nod and Tammy and Sharon Kenty, who are doing that, are handling as best we can to get you all connected so you have the privilege of that wonderful networking of ideas, a place to go to get information about what's happening at District 12. We're also continuing to work on your new website. We'll be posting a calendar there for all of you to see, as well as other events. So great things are happening on your behalf in District 12. Thank you, Richard.
And thank you, Suzanne. One of my goals tonight was to have, or several goals, was great information sharing, and we certainly accomplished that, and hopefully motivate you to go back to your clubs and make a distinguished or president's distinguished club in 21-22. And the other was to start and end on time. And we're very close to doing that. Our last speaker said that 1348 runs like a clock, starts and ends on time. He also talked about never give up. Please help me welcome our Speakers Bureau co-chair for announcement about our next meeting, and to close the meeting, distinguished Toastmaster, past district governor and qualified speaker, Tom Jameson. Tom.
Thank you again, Richard. And if you said we were almost on time, I should be able to fix that. I don't know. Anyway, I want to, first of all, I have to thank the audience. The audience, without an audience, we'd be all talking to ourselves. So I'm sure glad each of you are here. So thanks for that. I want to thank those people that helped take over while I was off running around the country. And Roz Carter did a great job for the July meeting on books, and her very effective team. Richard Snyder, of course, tonight did a wonderful job getting together a program. We didn't get to 50, but we came pretty close. So thank you for that. I want to thank Sunny Gale because she helps hold this whole thing together. Without her, we would be faltering in the wilderness somewhere because of the technology aspect. Sharon put out the flyers, so she helped us. Sharon Kenty made that wonderful, beautiful flyers as she has been doing, and thank her for that. I want to thank Marcus Van Hala. I don't know if is he still here. He has found us some more opportunities for our speakers to speak. So we've been sending quite a number out to Qantas and so on, but we may have another opportunity to send some speakers out. I want to brag a little bit about one of our speakers that was here last August and was also at our World Culture Day that Connie ran, Shomish Shivanya. Now, he is going to be a speaker at one of the educational sessions at International Convention. So you heard him here first. So let's brag about that a little bit. And again, thank you all for being here. It was mentioned at the International Convention, so maybe you'll get a chance to go to that. And I wanted to announce, if you are a QS and you have a program you'd like to put in sometime during the next fall meetings, let me know. If you're working with a person that is going for the QS, let me know about that. Make sure they meet all the necessary qualifications they need to go. And with that, I don't know how close we are to timing, but the next meeting is the very first day of September 1, 6:59 until 9 o'clock. And see you all. Thank you for being here.